Alright, so obviously these pieces of shit don't give a holy fucking goddamn what I go through, just like the rest of you pieces of shit. So let's call these pieces of shit and tell them what pieces of shit they are.
One one. To continue in English, please press 1. Para continuar en please enter the 5-digit zip code where you are currently located. If you do not know that zip code, please press. For information on COVID-19, the flu, RSV, please hold for the next available specialist. 211 Info strives to improve our services through community feedback. We would like to ask you a short 5-question survey after you have finished speaking with our. Good morning. Thank you for calling 211 Info. My name is Brenda. How can I help you?
Hello, Brenda. My name is Sean, and I would like you guys to do your fucking jobs as mandated goddamn reporters for once in your fucking lives, instead of putting goddamn victims' goddamn lives at fucking risk. That is not too much to fucking ask for.
Okay, sir. There's no need for you. I haven't received any calls from you.
Well, ma'am, I didn't start off calling you. I've called this number literally hundreds of times. So instead of talking over me, why don't you listen to why I'm frustrated? Do not talk over me! You dumb cunt! I'm tired of the abuse! I'm tired of being assaulted! Let's call that again.
1-1. To continue in English, please press 1. Please hold for the next available specialist.
Jesus Christ, these people are fucking useless as tits on a goddamn boar. I call them respectful, like, what do? Fucking talk over me and disrespect me. Literally, the only way to talk to these pieces of shit is to treat them the way you're treated. What do they fucking do? They get the luxury of hanging up. They're not taking it. They're not the ones being assaulted. Let's try this shit again.
2-1-1. To continue in English, please press 1. Para continuar en español, marque 2. Для разговора на русском языке нажмите цифру 3. Please enter the 5-digit zip code where you are currently located. For information on COVID-19, the flu, RSV, or Mpox, please press 0. If you would like housing information regarding services such as emergency shelter, rent assistance, or mortgage and foreclosures, please hold for the next available specialist. 211 Info strives to improve our services through community feedback.
No, you
We would
don't.
like to ask you a short 5-question
No.
survey. Hello, thank you for calling 201 Info. This is Renee speaking. How may I help you?
Hello, Renee. My name is Sean Schwartz, and I am a victim of long term abuse. abuse as well as a victim of 211 repeatedly tonight. Your job is not to push people to commit suicide. Your job is not to dismiss victims and blow us off onto others. Your job is not to dismiss our safety issues. Your job as a mandated reporter is to listen and to document it and to turn it in.
Get really aggressive with people. But if you're gonna cause
Sir,
anyone to,
nobody is being aggressive with you. You're being an asshole. You're being disrespectful and you're talking over a victim and putting like, God damn you piece of shit.
Thank you for calling 211. To continue in English, please press 1. Para continuar en español, marque. Please enter the 5-digit zip code where you are currently located. For information on COVID-19, the flu, RSV, or please hold for the next available specialist. 211 Info strives to improve our services.
Moms, I can't. Okay, I need actual help. I need actual help stopping abuse. I'm not some faker pretending to be disabled. I'm actually disabled. No, 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 no. That's not what it's about. I don't want to wake anybody up. I want help stopping the abuse. I don't want to argue with anybody. I want help stopping the abuse. I would be able to keep it down if someone would focus on the abuse. You see how important my words are? They don't mean shit. Nobody gives a fuck about the abuse.
Thank you for calling 1-1. To continue in English, please press. Please enter the 5-digit zip code where you are currently located. For information on COVID-19, the flu, RSV, or Mpox, please hold for the next available specialist. 211 Info strives to improve our services through community feedback. We would like to follow up with you in 2 weeks
No.
to see how you. Hello, thank you for calling 211 Info. This is Renee speaking. How can I help you?
Well, you can start off by not victimizing the victim, all right? That is never okay. It is never okay to victimize the victim. It's not okay to victim blame. It's not okay to victim shame. It is not okay to make false statements about a victim just because one of your coworkers doesn't like me. I don't care if all of your coworkers don't like me. I don't deserve to be assaulted. I don't deserve to have my life threatened. I don't deserve to have police officers not do their jobs. And I certainly don't deserve to be hung up on over trying to turn in abuse. You guys are mandated reporters. That's what I've been trying to get you to do is your job as mandated reporters. Hanging up on me is not doing your job as a mandated reporter. Talking over me is not doing your job as a mandated reporter. And pawning me off on another agency is not doing your job as a mandated reporter. When I tell you about a safety issue, it is your job as a mandated reporter to write down that safety issue and to turn it in. If there's a safety issue with another individual, regardless of where that person works, it is still a safety issue, and it does not.
Unfortunately, I'm not hearing you stating any issues or any abuse. This is the second time we've called.
Sir, now you're talking over me. You are being recorded and you are committing a felony against an at-risk adult. This is not acceptable. You need to stop talking over me and you need to stop disrespecting me. You're going out of your way to put an at-risk adult at further risk. You're trying to put my life at risk. You need to stop.
español. Please enter the 5-digit zip code where you are currently located. For information on COVID-19, the flu, RSV, or Mpox, please press. Please hold for the next available specialist. 211 Info strives to improve our services through community feedback. We would like to ask you a short 5 survey after you have finished speaking with our staff.
No.
Would you be... Morning. Thank you for calling 211 Info. My name is Erica. How can I help you?
Well, ma'am, you can start off by taking my report of the abuse by 211 tonight. Over and over and over again.
What's going on?
Well, ma'am, I have repeatedly tried calling 211 since the abuse started back in 2016. Repeatedly, 211, 911, 988, send me around in circles telling me that it's not their job as mandated reporters to do their job as mandated reporters. Now, as far as calling up and having to call up literally to scream, because every single time that I call up and call calmly and collectively, I get antagonized and bullied by the people who work for you. That is not acceptable. Then they play stupid like nobody knows what the mandated reporter job is. If you guys aren't trained as mandated reporters and you have to literally ask your bosses about everything, then you shouldn't be working there because you're putting people's lives at risk. Now, as far as people going out of their way at 211 to literally try to take everything that I say as an insult the moment they find out that I'm homeless, or the moment that I said that 911 or 211 did anything wrong, or that police did anything wrong, that's not okay. All right. If a person is raped, it doesn't matter if they're raped by somebody in their own household, somebody out on the streets, or a police officer. Rape is rape. So if I'm trying to turn in a police officer for a crime that they committed, no matter what that crime is, it is still a crime. I am still an at-risk adult, and I am still being abused. The long-term abuse that I have gone through is well documented, but I don't get to have it documented by any of you. I have to document it on YouTube and Facebook, because every time that I call 211 and they find out that I'm homeless, or they want to play the mentally ill tag, then we go around in circles over a bunch of stupid stuff that is unrelated to turning in the abuse. Trying to get your...
Right.
Do what?
I said it right. I'm listening. Sorry.
So the first lady that I spoke with tonight, I tried explaining to her the situation. The moment that she thought she could interject with the mentally ill thing, she started going off on the mentally ill thing. That is not her job to ask about, and it is not her business. I called about being abused. So that means that the abuse is what needs to be focused on. And she was not okay with that. Instead, what she wanted to do is she got an even worse attitude when I said I was homeless. Then she literally talked over everything that I said for an entire minute. Probably over a minute. Now, that is extremely disrespectful. That guarantees that you are destroying the safety and integrity of the witness. I am petrified to call you guys because I know every time that I call, I'm going to get blown off. I'm going to have to stop and call again and again and again to address the fact that the person that I just talked to previously treated me with such disrespect, talked down to me like I was an animal, or hung up on me, or sold a false narrative at me like the guy Renee just did twice.
I'm so sorry.
Now, by the time I got to...
You're in?
Do what?
What is your zip code that you're needing help in today?
I'm currently in 97... I don't even know. It's Tillamook, Oregon.
Okay. Let's see about that. And then when did this crime occur for you?
Crimes. There are literally thousands of crimes that have been committed against me since Natalie Bollinger's death.
What was the most recent one? What date was that?
It was about 10 minutes ago when Renee hung up on me.
I'm talking about a physical crime, like
It doesn't
were
have to be a
expressing at the
physical
beginning from the
crime. I'm an at
officers?
risk adult. It doesn't have to be a physical crime.
Before Renee, so like before 211, the reason why it prompted you to call 211, what happened then?
Well, what prompted me to call Renee or to call 211 is that these are the 5 numbers that I get sent around to every time I try to turn in abuse to the police. They blow me off because I'm alone. Every single time I try to turn in physical assaults by people like Andrew Wolnez and Christopher Stafford, the police do not care. They talk over me and make every excuse not to do their jobs. They don't care about the homeless, and neither does anybody else in this country. I don't deserve this abuse just because of other people's bias. I don't deserve to be abused by people at 211 or 988 just because they hold bias. I don't deserve to be harmed by any of these people, ma'am.
I agree. I agree with that.
Now, I also want you to
I see that.
understand. I want you to understand that the issues that I'm having with speaking right now, and the fact that I'm speaking so fast, is because I was treated with such disrespect repeatedly by 211. This literally has been going on since 2016. All right, I have been assaulted, threatened, and harassed since 2016 over Natalie Bollinger. She got shot in the head in 2017 in Colorado. I've had to move from one end of the country to the other. When I am abused, I'm supposed to turn it into mandated reporters, and mandated reporters are supposed to document it and turn it in. Instead of documenting it and turning it in, I get talked in circles, and that is never okay. I get talked over, that is not okay. I get victim shamed and victim blamed, and that is not okay. And for me to have to talk to that lady when I first called and for her to treat me with such disrespect, and I tried to call in again and turn it in, and I was treated with disrespect. So, you know what? I had to call back and literally yell. And that is not something that I should have to do. Now, as far as that guy Renee goes, he wanted to lie to me about previous calls that he had not been a part of. And then I had to call back, and it was Renee again. And then he got a severe attitude with me again and talked over me again and disrespected me again and treated me like I was less than a human being. All right. We don't call you people because we want to, we call you because we're being harmed. We don't call you because we want you to
Right.
pawn us off on numbers that we've already been to. We call you guys because we're being harmed. The same thing with 988, which is one of the numbers that 211 often sends me to, is 988, 988, 988. 988 sends me back to 211. And all of you send me back to the same officers who pawned me off on you guys to begin with. You are all mandated reporters, and you are all derelict of your duties in this. I am still disabled. I am still being abused. I get yelled at
Yeah.
every single day. I get assaulted at least twice a week by the same people over and over and over again. And I get harmed by the same police officers over and over and over again because they refuse to do their jobs for a homeless man.
No, I hear you. So I'm trying to start this report for you, and when I'm putting in the report information, I have to have a date and a time, or like an estimated date or time,
Yes,
and
ma'am,
then
and
one
that's one of the
person's
things
name
with
that
me
you're trying
pointing.
to
This is
report.
this is one of the things with me pointing out that I've literally made hundreds of calls is because we never get that far. They're always pawning me off on somebody else. Now I can give you the times and the dates. John Napier assaulted me over at the Shell station on March 1st of this year.
Okay, March 1st, and you said their name was
John Napier, JohnNapier.
John Napier. You said that was March 1st?
Yes, ma'am. It was at the Shell station, and two of the people who work there who are witnesses are Tyler and Amy. Also, the lady who is the manager there, her name is Shayna. I did go talk to her to try to get the body cameras. Shayna said that only the police can come and get them.
What time was that, do you think?
It was within 5 minutes of noon.
Okay, so around 11:55 a.m.
Yep, he assaulted me between 11:55 and 12:05.
What is your name?
My name is Sean Schwartz.
And how do you spell that, Sean?
SHAWN. SCHWARTZ. There's a lot more to it though, because the police are the ones that started the abuse and violence here.
No, I hear you, and I'm sure there's so much more. But to get things started, we just have to throw one thing at least in there so that we can get it reported.
Yes, ma'am.
What is your age?
We also have to address any safety issues, and with the police officers doing what they're doing, and the fact that they are involved in this situation, it does have to be documented. I'm 43. I
Yeah.
was born October 18th, 1980.
And then what is a good phone number for you?
Here, give me just 1 second. It's on the back of my phone.
And I know you said you're homeless. What's an address that you're nearby?
Ma'am, we're not going to do this. Ma'am, we need to stop this right here because you're not addressing the safety issue with the police. What you're doing right now is trying to establish a location. Yes, ma'am, and I'm thankful for that. Where I'm at now is irrelevant. Where the crimes were committed is relevant.
Do you want me to just put the Shell station?
Yes, that's where the crime was committed. So yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then, do you know what that address is at the Shell station?
No, ma'am, but it's on Third and Main, or Third Street and Highway 101.
Thank you.
I believe. It might be Third and Pacific, but the thing is that this is going to be turned into the police, so it needs to be the issues with the police need to be in there, because otherwise what you're doing is you're literally giving my predators in the police department a free excuse to harm me. That's the biggest issue with safety issues with our predators. We're supposed to go to adult protective services when we're harmed, even if our predator is a police officer. But adult protective
services isn't. Oh, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. They're not open right now.
I'm aware of that, and I also called them during the day. Do what?
As a 211 specialist, we're information referral, and we can make a report. We cannot do a safety establishment with you. We can't give you a safe place to go.
I'm aware of all of that, and as far as references of where I can call, that's only if you're going to avoid your duty as a mandated reporter. So it's important to the duty as a mandated reporter.
Right. So I'm doing my job. So right now, I'm trying to report for you. This is my job. I know that I'm trying to get the information from you, and you're stopping me and telling me what I need to do. As my job as a mandated reporter, I have to fill out this application, this report, and you don't want to do that because
ma'am, you're putting words in my mouth. That is not what I'm saying at all. You're putting words in my mouth and rewording it into something that it isn't. I'm trying to give you details of the abuse. Do what?
Do you want to finish this report and then we can get to the safety part and find some more safety resources for you?
Ma'am, the safety issue isn't you pawning me off on a place to stay. The safety issue is with the police. The police created this issue. That's why I'm trying to make sure that I report the details of the police.
Now, when there's an issue, I can only report to Adult Protective Services, so I don't report directly to the police. If you want to make a police report, you have to call the police directly.
Ma'am, you're interrupting me to tell me things that every retard knows, okay? I'm telling you important details. You're rewording it and making bad assumptions.
Okay, I'm not trying to do that.
Thank you, ma'am.
How old is John, do you think?
He's probably about 40.
And then do you know his phone number?
I do not. I do have his daughter's phone number, but I can't look it up while I'm on the phone with you.
Okay. And it was just between you and John, correct? The abuse?
No, ma'am. It's also his wife, and some of her coworkers, as well as a guy named Andrew Wolnez, who I now have a permanent protection order against. He doesn't care. He keeps violating the permanent protection order.
And at the Shell station when John assaulted you, his wife was there and his coworkers, or just John?
No, ma'am. It was just John, and it wasn't his coworkers. I don't even know if he has a job. It was his wife and her coworkers that were much of the issue.
That's what I meant. I don't mean to confuse it. Thank you so much for clarifying that.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. And thank you for not getting an attitude with me. A lot of people immediately start an attitude once they realize that they said something wrong, or as soon as I correct them, they're immediately hostile. And that's much of the issue with people that I've talked to at all of these services, is that when they make a mistake, they do get immediately hostile. It's the same thing with the police.
I hear you. I definitely hear you. Okay. So let's see here. It says, please describe the call and exactly what happened. So at the day of the Shell station, did you try to go inside the Shell station or get some gas, or how did this
I went into the Shell station, and this is one of the things about this entire thing becoming a conversation. I could have explained all of those details already. With John, I went into the Shell station. I went to the ATM to see if there was any money on my ATM, and when I was checking the money, he came up and hit me in the back. Started shouting at me in the Shell station about leaving his family alone, which I didn't realize there was an issue with his family. And then he was telling the cashier, his name is Tyler. John was telling Tyler that he was going to kill me.
Okay. Thank you. Hold on. I'm writing all this down. I appreciate you telling me this. I'm so sorry that happened. I never hit him in the back.
Yes, ma'am. I do have permanent back injuries. And it's pretty obvious to anybody who's seen me walk.
Yeah, back injuries are not something to play with, that's for sure.
No, ma'am.
And then after he told the cashier that he was going to take your life, did he leave the store?
He did some extra hooting, hollering, and shouting, but he did eventually leave the store.
And then did you call the police?
No, ma'am, I didn't. That's the thing with not addressing the safety issue with the police.
Right. Exactly. I figured, I mean, obviously, if you don't feel safe with the police, I wouldn't call them either. So I figured I just wanted to clarify.
I do want to clarify that the reason that I am afraid of the police is because I have called the police, and as a homeless, disabled man, all they do is victimize us. It's the same coast to coast. If you're a disabled homeless man, you might as well be trash, because that's how you're going to get treated.
I'm so sorry. That's very frustrating to hear.
Anyway.
And then the county, Tillamook County?
Yep. Ma'am, here's the situation with the police. I try to turn in the issues when they happen. When I first got to Tillamook, I tried to turn in abuse by a woman named Molly, and I tried to turn it into the police. I tried to turn it into Officer Lynn Lothman and Officer Trent Olson. And they blew me off and sent me on a mental health loop because they didn't want to do their jobs as mandatory reporters, and didn't want to do their jobs for a man, and certainly didn't want to do their job for a homeless person. They do this to all the homeless people here, so it's not specific to me. Anyway, I was also stalked here by a guy named James Murphy from Hood River, where he tried to assault me and threaten me on multiple occasions. Because of my friend Natalie Bollinger getting shot in the head, I have to deal with this literally everywhere I go. That includes police refusing to do their jobs and sending me to mental health. Meanwhile, I got my disability for physical disabilities, and the police are required to do something about it immediately. Now, if I was telling
Right.
them that I was being stalked by rainbows and unicorns, well, then it would make sense why they blew me off. But I wasn't. Now, then,
Right.
once I try to turn that in and they pawn me off on mental health tells me that it's not their job, but they'll set me up for therapy appointments. And they require me to come back to the therapy appointments in order to get an advocate. Well, they never advocate. Meanwhile, the entire time that they're sending me off 30 days at a time in between therapy appointments, I'm still having to take abuse by these youngins at Tillamook Sporting Goods parking lot, Chris Stafford and Andrew Wolnez. John Napier, like, he wasn't even involved in the situation, except that his wife was trying to get some way for Andrew Wolnez to stop messing with me.
Yeah.
The only problem
Right.
is all these people's solutions are violent. She wanted to have her husband
Mhm.
beat him up. I said, I'm against that. I don't want anybody getting hurt. I want help turning him in. The problem is that
Yeah.
poor people have no faith in the system. They have no faith in 211, no faith in 988, no faith in the police. And the reason is because all of us are victimized by every service. We're told that we have to jump through endless hoops that cost money we don't have. For somebody like me who's on a fixed income because I'm disabled, that's all the money I have to live on. If I get ripped off for that money, I'm ripped off permanently. I have no way to recover it. I can't pick up extra
Right.
hours down at the mill.
Mhm. Right. No, I hear you for sure.
Now, the problem with the police blowing me off on the mental health, even when I call 911, they blow me off, refuse to do their job, send me to mental health. I go to mental health. They say it's not their job to police the police. Adult Protective Services as
Mhm.
well. The thing is, it doesn't matter if it's their job to police the police or not. What matters is, did those police take advantage of an at risk adult? And in fact, and indeed, they did. Whether these people want to hear it or not, it's still the truth. Now, then
Right.
later
I
on,
know they need to be recorded.
yep, later on when I go to the police, they tell me I should have called 911. Well, I did call 911, but they already know that. They're just trying to say that so they can blow it off and make it my fault that they didn't do anything.
Mhm.
And then, of course,
Mhm.
I have to try to turn them into their supervisors. When I tried to turn in Lynn Lothman to his supervisors on multiple occasions, over half a dozen occasions, Lynn Lothman himself showed up to antagonize me or bully me, and those are recorded. Now, as far as turning it in immediately, when I did turn it in immediately, that's the scenario. Then I'm told that it's
Mhm.
211 I need to call, and then these places tell me to call 988, and then they tell me that they can't do anything because it's the weekend. And, ma'am, it has literally been 7 years of abuse and a complete and total runaround the entire time. Now, when I tried to
Right.
turn in Lynn Lothman and was finally able to go to the hospital, which is one of the alternative places that I'm supposed to turn it in, he showed up there to threaten, harass, and intimidate me. Now, by law, they should have had him and somebody from Adult Protective Services both show up at the same time. Also, when they realized that he was one of the officers that I was trying to turn in, it was no longer appropriate for him to be there, and the hospital by law was supposed to send him away. And they didn't. They let him grill me and harass me and lie to me and about me for 30 minutes.
Mm. That is so frustrating. I'm so
Yes,
sorry.
ma'am. Then there's the fact that I had to call up 911 about all these situations and explain to 911, hey, you need to do something about these officers because when I'm assaulted, I need to be able to call 911 and know that the officers are going to show up and they're going to respond appropriately. Instead of doing
Mhm.
that, like literally on 7 different occasions when I called up 911 immediately after being assaulted, I still had to address the issue with the police because it still hasn't been addressed in this entire time. And because I tried to address the issues with them repeatedly sending the officers who harmed me, knowing that it's a felony, they didn't
Mhm.
want to address that. And I was bullied and treated like I wasn't trying to turn in a crime. This is
Mm.
systemic abuse, and that's even worse. It's bad
So.
enough when you're beaten up for crimes that you didn't commit. It's even worse when police officers are egging it on or even encouraging your predators to do these things. Even knowing
Mhm.
that there's a protection order against Andrew Wolnez, a permanent protection order, these officers still won't do their jobs, and neither will any of the services here to help me to turn it in. They tell me I have to go alone. As an at risk and disabled adult, I'm literally supposed to have an advocate present so that my rights aren't railroaded.
Yeah. Have you reached out to the courthouse to see if you can have a representative there, like a
I
third
have.
party?
I went to the circuit court window, and I was literally laughed at there, and bullied and antagonized there for trying to turn in officers. It's a small enough town that all of these people at
Mm,
all of these services know each other. The people at Northwest
mm,
Senior and Disability Services know the people at TFCC. They all know the people at CARE. They know all the people at Tides of Change, and they know all the people at the Sheriff's Department and Police Department. So literally, I have to go to their friends to turn them in, or I have to turn them into themselves. Anyway,
I can see where
repeatedly,
that.
the officers have repeatedly told me that they don't allow written reports, that I tell them what happened and they'll decide if it's illegal, and they never make a report about it. Then I'm told that the reason by the DA's office, as well as the victims' assistance and victims' advocacy, that they can't do anything because the police literally never turned anything in. They also refused to investigate
Mhm.
by refusing to talk to any of the witnesses, and any witnesses who try to come forward, the officers lie to them and say that that they can't make a report for somebody else. They're not making a report for somebody else. They're making an eyewitness report, and they are allowed to do that. And it's against the law for the officers to try to deter them from doing that.
Mhm. No,
Just
exactly.
just because they reword it doesn't make it okay. Now, a lot of the instances that happened,
Yeah.
if they had allowed me to turn them in right away, then it wouldn't have gotten buried under hundreds and hundreds of more recordings because I am harmed that often. If it takes six
Mhm.
months for somebody to take the abuse by the officers seriously, I can't tell them the exact time and date that it happened because it happened 6 months ago.
Mhm.
But if I'm still being
Mhm.
abused over the situation, I'm still being abused over it. If I'm in an unsafe situation where I'm having to deal with alcoholics that are throwing things and screaming all the damn time and throwing tantrums because they didn't get their penis touched, I'm going to have a mental breakdown over it. And I have repeatedly had mental breakdowns over being stuck in abusive environments. When I have a mental
Mhm.
breakdown, it's not like when a woman has a mental breakdown and every man is expected to stop and coddle her. No, when a man has a mental breakdown, he gets treated like he's psychotic and violent and out to kill people.
Mm.
Meanwhile, I'm
I
having to
hear
deal
you.
with people actually threatening to kill me. That's another thing with adult protective services and child protective services. These people that are sending me text messages saying that they're gonna kill my sister and they're gonna cut my niece up and rape her chest cavity and send me pictures of their dicks. Like, this is stuff that is fucking sick. And I get blown off by the
So,
police like I deserve it, like I want it.
have you thought of leaving out of Tillamook?
Ma'am, this stuff didn't start in Tillamook. I've moved over 50 times since Natalie Bollinger got her brains out. It doesn't matter where I go. The internet is everywhere, and true crime is the most popular thing in America for women between the ages of 18 and 35.
Mhm.
That also
No,
happens to
I hear
be
you.
that also happens to be the age range where men are most actively pursuing women, which means that men are more likely to listen to those women. And those women, they get on these websites, they accuse me of things that I didn't do. And mind you, none of these women know me. None of them have ever met me. What they heard is some crap off of a true crime site, and they think it's okay to harm me over the internet and try to antagonize other people into harassing me over the internet. And they also do these things in real life. Andrew Wolnez has been assaulting me since September 21st of last year. Meanwhile, the youngins at Tillamook Sporting Goods parking lot have been doing it since 2022. Chris Stafford has been doing this since the very beginning of last year. Like, these are long term
Mhm.
predators that I've tried to turn in. Now,
Right,
repeatedly, when
right.
I've tried to turn them into the officers, David Martinez and Lynn Lothman and their coworkers, they've lied to me, dismissed me, and sent me on a wild goose chase. Meanwhile, the judges that I've had to go talk to have told me that it is the police's job to do this. The safety issue
Right.
is that they won't, not without a friend or family member present. I can't turn in the
And you
times
don't
and
have
dates
somebody
this
that
far
can
out,
come
and
with
that's
you.
why mandated reporting is so important to turn it in right away and to listen to the victim and to write it down. It's because when it gets that far buried, we're treated like we need to just let it go. We're not allowed to let it go. Meanwhile, I live on a fixed
Yeah.
income. They have bashed my vehicle till it doesn't work. I can't afford to take care of myself. I'm expected to jump through a bunch of crap for the courts. I'm expected to get a mailbox. It takes 6 months after we get our disability money. We get our first back paycheck. It's about $2,500, and that is supposed to help us to get it set up with post office box, first and last month's rent, and get ourselves into a place and get ourselves established. Well, that didn't get to happen because when I got my disability money, I was being ripped off by Kenneth Wilson and Leatha Plunkett in Colorado. And by the time I got my second back payment, Natalie Bollinger had been dead, and I had to spend all of that money to try to jump through court ordered hoops over crimes I never committed. I was
Mm.
denied the right to go to court. I was denied the right to face my accusers, and to this day, I've been denied my right to make a police report.
Mm. Yeah, I hear you. So I made that abuse report for you, and then I wish I could be there and help you go make a police report.
Did you
But
did you
unfortunately,
document the part about me going to the police and send that in and write down Lynn Lothman and
yes.
David Martinez's name?
Are those the police that you talked to?
Yes, ma'am. Trent Olson as well. Literally every police officer here has refused to do their job. I did help to turn in Ray Rao, the former police chief, and he actually got arrested and convicted of the crimes I was trying to turn him in for, which is good. But somebody else had to turn him in because they didn't listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
So now they have an interim police chief, and the interim police chief refuses to call me, refuses to listen to me, refuses to anything. Meanwhile, I can't get it to any of these other agencies until he does his job. I've already gone up the chain of command and been denied the right to turn in paper evidence, denied the right to turn in electronic evidence. They literally go out of their way just to bully me at every turn.
Okay, and then I want you to tell me those names one more time. The police that were involved.
Lynn Lothman,
Lynn Lost. Uh huh.
um, David
There was another one like
Martinez.
Martinez. That was the one. Uh
Yep.
huh.
There's also Sadler, Hanratty, uh, Trent Olson,
Lynn Mossman, David Martinez, Sadler, Hanreddy, and Trent Olson.
yes, ma'am. There's also Sergeants Harrell, I believe, and Harris. On multiple occasions, when I've tried to turn in Lynn Lothman and Lynn Lothman has showed up, I'm supposed to turn it into his superiors. And when I tried to turn it into his superiors, they bullied me as well. They're the ones that told me that I needed to turn it into the state troopers, and I called the state troopers, and they said I had to turn it into the police department. This game has been going on since I got here. Now, as far as the assaults by Andrew Wolnez, I recorded 7 of the 9 assaults. What I don't have as a disabled person is access to a safe environment where I can work on this in peace and quiet. I'm aware that you can't
Right.
provide me with that, but the fact is that as a disabled adult, they are supposed to deal with it. They are supposed to get me a room for up to 2 weeks. so that I can actually sit down without having to
Who
fear
is?
being abused by my abusers again. And, you know, bullying me into moving somewhere else is not helpful to somebody who is a dependent adult, which I am. I have to depend
And
on. Go ahead.
who was supposed to put you in a hotel?
There's services in this county for domestic abuse as well as other abuse survivors. Um, the problem is that I don't have an advocate, even though I'm supposed to have a caseworker advocate to assist me with all this stuff. I haven't had one. Um, there is a lady that they were telling me was supposed to be, but she wasn't interested in doing her job. She was interested in blowing me off and having me go around in circles for therapy. She sent me to uh, the lady from ODHS sent me to Northwest Senior and Disability Centers as well as TFCC and TCHC here. I spoke to all the mandated reporters there. One of the things that they don't want to recognize, I was a homeless liaison in Colorado, so I'm pretty up to date on mandated reporter laws, especially the federal.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, as soon as I start telling the mandated reporters that I know what the laws are, oftentimes it results in people getting a real bad attitude with me and talking over me. Same thing as when I say I'm homeless, or when they hear that I'm trying to turn in officers, the first thing that they'll jump to is the mentally ill thing. Another thing is my
Yeah.
bullies are trying to bully me into killing myself. And if I try to explain that, then they want to know my address so they can send an officer and an ambulance
Mm-hmm.
to lock me up for being suicidal and attempting suicide when I'm obviously not attempting suicide. If I was trying to kill myself,
Right.
I wouldn't call you. I'd just do it.
Right. Right. I totally get what you're saying.
Well, I wouldn't.
Have you
The
called
first thing
Tides of
I'd
Change?
do what?
Have you talked to Tides of Change to see if they could help us with a hotel voucher?
Um, Tides of Change doesn't help men, especially not homeless men. They're supposed to, but they don't. There's too much bias held. I can't
Okay.
change the bias of the people that work there. As far as
Mm-hmm.
a hotel voucher, the thing is that they keep saying that I have to do this through my medical stuff. My medical stuff won't do it until I have my own primary care physician. I literally don't have the money to take care of myself. I have to live on $800 a month. And $800 a month doesn't last long when you're literally spending all of your money to jump through these hoops and to also maintain all of the things that you need to go to those services, like your car, your insurance, the
Yeah.
telephone, things of that nature. Plus, there's the fact that when they don't do their jobs immediately, then it ends up with
Mm-hmm.
that stuff being buried. It doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It means that when it takes 6 months to be able to turn it in, I have to go back 6 months worth of recordings to try to dig it out. And I don't have a place where I can sit in peace and quiet and do that. I'm in sort of a garage. I'm in a pole barn that's got some fencing on the outside. That's what I'm staying in currently with all of my stuff. And I'm having to sit with it almost all day long because I have to fear people coming in and stealing my stuff. Then there's
Yeah.
the fact that my
Have
physical.
you served in the U.S. military?
No, ma'am.
Do you get food stamp benefits?
Yes, ma'am. I also get disability benefits.
What does that bring you each month?
$848 per month now.
Okay. And then you said that you're staying in a like a some type of shelter garage. Who let you stay there?
The guy's name is Massine.
Do you think that he would be able to go with you in
No,
person to help?
no.
Okay. I'm sure you already tried thinking of that.
Well, that's one of the things about not being able to go to the police or these other services is that I'm primarily stuck with alcoholics and drug addicts as far as help goes, and obviously that's not the safest situation. As far as a lot of people go here, they may have good intentions, but they don't have any follow through. As far as, he's one of many people who said that they would help me to stop the bullying, but most people's idea of stopping the bullying involves threatening people or, uh,
Bullying back.
yeah, and
Right.
that's the thing. If anyone's going to bully my bullies back, it's going to be me. I don't think,
Right. Yeah.
and the only reason for that is because they are directly targeting me. They are directly targeting my family, and by law, because it's absolutely necessary, I am allowed to threaten to do those things back. I'm not allowed to go above and beyond what they're doing, and I'm not allowed to physically harm people, but I am allowed to threaten them back to draw attention to the situation.
Right. Okay.
Meanwhile, I took threats, literally threats against my life, for almost 2 years before I threatened anyone back. And the only reason that I threatened anyone back is to get a court date.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing
And
is, I
have
didn't
you?
threaten anybody who didn't threaten me. I threatened exactly the
Right.
people who threatened to kill me and my friends and family. I didn't threaten to kill any of the Bollingers during the August situation, and during the situation of my grandma's funeral, the only one that I threatened was Ted. Meanwhile, all of the Bollingers have been playing head games and gaslighting me, not just in real life, but
Right.
also on the internet. I don't get to see any of my friends and family, and as a disabled adult, I am dependent on my friends and family for my safety. People are less likely to
Right.
harm me if I'm with my friends and family. Also,
Mhm.
out of sight, out of mind. With me not being there close to my friends and family because of fear of assault, they don't hear any of my stories. They don't know what's going on, and they're not going to try because I'm not there.
Right. I
So,
hear you.
I've
I
had to stay with a
hear
lot
you.
of drug addicts and alcoholics, and I have footage from all of those places too. I've got
Mhm.
videos of a guy in Virginia was going to help me in a place called Bristol, but he was too messed up on methamphetamine, so I ended up being a pawn for him and his girlfriend's arguments. The same thing with the alcoholics that I've had to stay with. I've had to stay with drug addicts and drug salesmen. I mean, this is
Mhm.
not the kind of environment that an
Have you?
go ahead.
Have you talked to Helping Hands Reentry?
I don't know what reentry is.
So they provide emergency shelter, housing, food, clothing, and comprehensive needs for assessments to get connected to a case manager. And this might be another way to try to get
Well,
connected to
I've been
housing.
out to Helping Hands. That there was no such thing as a voucher. It's a building out here that's set up just to help drug addicts. There is no privacy there. I have to talk about rape and murder and child molestation in front of a bunch of drug addicts in an open area. They've got one room for the dudes, and there's 8 dudes that stay in that one room, and there is no door on it. The rules there are rules that you would give a 5 year old or a 9 year old in some situations, but for certainly they're not rules that any grown adult should be expected to follow.
Mm. Okay, so it does look like you've tried all the options in your area. The best bet to try to get a hotel voucher, like you've been mentioned before, is to get a primary care physician. And I know that it's tricky with the car being like moving and stuff, but I'm wondering if you can try to do like a telecommute one where you can do the appointment over the phone.
No, no
But
ma'am,
the
I
best
can't.
way to try to get you situated is to
That that
get a
that that that
primary care.
that's one of the things is that I don't have that, and this is also stuff that I'm just being told by all these different services. When I call the services that I'm told to call because these other services claim that they do something, I call them and they tell me they don't. So even though it's my care provider and all of that BS, realistically, the moment that they found out that I was a disabled adult in their county being assaulted, they should have done something. They should have done the voucher thing. That woman, Molly, who was my first predator in this town, they literally gave her a hotel voucher for 2 weeks for playing victim. Shit. she had a lot of questions, but there's some really important ones. Apparently, getting hung up on his story of my damn life, right? If I'm not getting hung up on, it's a no call, no show. Oh, I shouldn't have to yell to be heard. I'm gonna post a link to the last video. That way you can hear me talking nice to them the first time through. All of these mandated reporters will try to pawn you off on another mandated reporting agency. They're all mandated reporters, all of them. Also, if you live in the state of Nebraska, everyone's a mandatory reporter. If you're abused and you tell someone you're being abused and they don't do shit, they can go to prison for it. That's not a joke.